limiting beliefs often most likely come from our family of origin. So what messages we heard, or even unspoken, nonverbal messages that we heard in our families growing up. And so I think for us as moms, that it's really important to somehow become aware of what we're passing down to our kids.
Absolutely, right? So we talked about core beliefs, and they're just a way like of organizing how the world works. But how did we even develop a core belief, right? Like, how do we even develop what a belief is, and then create the limiting belief that came from that? So as you mentioned, yes, like our families of origin, how we grew up, and I always say, like, none of us got out of childhood unscathed. Whether you come from a family, maybe there was like a lot of trauma, or could be like a divorce, but we as children, we're always constantly, the way the brain makes, we need to make sense of the world. So we'll create a story around something, right, about the way the world works. So then that is, again, where a belief comes from. So it could be something as, maybe you grew up in a single parent household, and so either your father wasn't there, or something that was like, or people leave, or your parents got divorced, so people leave, or I'm not lovable, right? Like, so you maybe developed a sense of like a core belief based around your family of origin, events that have happened in your life, and they could be big ones or small ones. It doesn't even have to be something like, a divorce or a trauma. It could be something that we share that has been passed down for, like, right? How did we learn things? They were passed down from generations to generations, and how did things get through storytelling, right? Stories, right? Like, or sayings. There's mantras in the world, like, change is hard, or money doesn't grow on trees, or, only rich people are greedy, or like, I don't know. You could always think of like those little sayings that like we just sort of roll off our tongue, and watching your language around your kids, because it's like how they will incorporate and create a belief based around something that we're sharing, and also just energetically how we're showing up. So, yeah.
So, no, I was just thinking when we were talking about fair and life is not fair and all of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, you could write a list. That would be a fun exercise.
It would be a good exercise to just stop and listen to the different mantras or sayings that come out of our mouths, just within your family, for good, for humor, for bad, whatever, all of it. I know that when you have more than just your special needs child, when there's siblings involved, at some point, I think all parents, when there's multiple kids, at some point you're going to hear a kid say, "It's not fair. Life isn't fair." And so they're going to grow up, and I'll say, that's right. It isn't fair. It's not all going to be equal. And it's not. So how does that translate then into their limiting belief later on in life? Like, what does that look like? Like, does that contribute to like an attitude of scarcity, or there's not enough, or not enough for me?
Life is not fair. Why should I try? Like, it's hard. Yeah, it could
Why
be
should
also
I try? Yeah.
So here's how I reframe that. So we can take some of these and we can just reframe them, because it's like, life's not fair. Actually, life is very fair. You get what you think about. You get what you put out there. You get the energy, right? So it's like maybe the situation, and the kid's like, no, so and so gets all the attention because they're the child that needs more. It's like, no, life is fair. Life is actually designed perfectly the way, and everything that you're thinking about is what is again being experienced back to you. So we can just even reframe that, and if they give you examples, you just kind of keep going with it. And it's like, I think we get challenged and we just say those things. Yep, that's true. Life's not fair. But have you ever stopped to think, like, where did that come from for you? We have beliefs that we got from our parents, from school, from religion, and most of us don't even stop to think where we actually developed those. A lot of times we just do it because, and I have this great story that somebody told me, and I can't remember where I heard it, but it's so true, and it really brings this point home.
Okay.
It was a story about a woman who used to cut the ends off. I think it was a pot roast, maybe it was a ham, I'm not really sure. But the point is but then so every year that would have, because here comes the holidays are coming, so it's like every year the ends would be cut off of the pot roast. And then it was like, and somebody asked, like, why do you cut the ends off? And they're like, I don't know, because my mom did it. And so they went back to the mom, and she's like, I don't know, because my mom did it. And then it was like, then you go to like the great-grandma. Why did you cut the ends off? It was because I didn't have a pan that was big enough. So it could start from something like that. Is the point is like something that you thought was like a steadfast rule that you had to like cut the ends off of your pork roast or your pot roast or whatever, because it was just something that was as benign as she just did it because she didn't have a big enough pan. But my point being, right, like
right.
Literally going back and thinking, where are these just societal things that we all say to each other? These just like floating around in the ethos of just like conversations that we have that we're just constantly reinforcing, right? Like it's, so I think it's just really like going back to what we've already spoken about and really kind of uncovering, where do my beliefs come from? We're very like, so like hard fast to defend them, and we don't question them. Like, where did I actually pick that up? So when it comes back to our own childhood and examining that and looking at where you came from and how that has now shaped your now reality, and then how you're shaping your children's reality, because you're just basically, most of us, until we become again conscious and making deliberate attempts to change these things, we're passing these down to like our own children. So where in your life do you do this and you find yourself just making those assumptions, like, right? Like, we just all sort of accept that life's not fair, and we're all just going around saying it, and we're like, actually, life is really fair. It really just it works out to the degree that like whatever like whatever I'm putting in, I'm actually getting back like being mirrored back to me. My experience is being mirrored back to you. So when your kids are like, that's not fair because you're always doing this, it's like, and your kids are having this experience and they're going, you're like, but yeah, life is fair. We're all having you're all having the experience that you want to have about it. So how could you, and teaching your children, how can you look at this from a different perspective? How can you look at this that as your life is being created, right, in the exact way that's designed just for you, right? And maybe it's a skill you're learning. Like I always tell my son to I have a younger son, neurotypical son, and it's like, his world is being shaped by the experience of having a special needs brother. And how can you use those things as for like a positive, right? Like how can you reframe that into like a way that you can have a positive experience about it? Because they're going to be more patient. Right? There's so much, I'm sure they like.
Yes, right? There's a maturity and kindness and compassion that develops in the siblings for sure. So we need to remind them like how great that is for them, so that they can then play that new tape in their head too, like how it's shaping them, making them into, oh, this is making me a better human being.
Or you just ask them, not telling them, because you can ask them, because we can tell them something again. We're just creating that belief for them. But if we actually ask them, like, how can you see this in a different way? Or how can you use this information to better serve you? Like, what ways is this helping you grow? And what ways is this you're learning a different skill than maybe your peers are, right? So I remember the one gal who was like all her other siblings, all the other kids that she had, because it was the one child that she was like, they were like so mad, right? They were really mad. And you might not be able to convince them, and that's okay. But just know that you're laying the groundwork for these new thoughts. So challenge their own beliefs when you see them coming up. You can challenge the way that they're thinking. Like, okay, well, like, give me, like, ask them those questions, right? You could use it back. You could even use her. Because do you know that that's true? Can you absolutely know that that's not true, right?
That's
and you're like, she can't wait until the kids come home. You're right. She's like, oh, kids, I've got some new things for you. Mom's got some new tools in her toolbox, right? Yeah, right. So don't like believe things on basic because they're just out there in our environment, and we're just reinforcing all these old world, views that don't serve us anymore, right? Let's be more questioning and like more like, okay, what's more available to me, right? Like when I reach outside of this box that I've put myself in and change my beliefs about how I see the world, what is the potentiality that I'm really creating here, as opposed to just me staying stuck because it feels easier, or it feels safe, or it out there is scary, or out there it's hard, or out there it's right. If you're changing how, like, I always like when something happens or something that I have a reaction to, or that I go back into that, because it happens in a nanosecond, and I do it too. So but I put a little pause in between it, and I always say, like, isn't that interesting? And then that gives my brain like a little time, like a little pause to kind of create a different experience instead of me reacting to everything. Like, say you're anything, literally the world.
That's so
right?
good. No, that's so good. Just to train yourself to pause rather than emotionally react to whatever it is that's going on or what's being said to you or something that you hear or the way your child is acting or the way somebody said the wrong thing to you rather than reacting. That's interesting.
Right, and then that gives you the space to like, why does that upset me? Why is this, or why am I reacting to this? Because again, your reaction is then creating all the other right? Once you react to that, then it sets off this like series of chains, and I'm sure you all know like how that works out, right?
Right.
And then you gotta reel it back in, but
so good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wow.